Okay, folks, it's 6 p.m. So it's program time. It's 6 p.m. here in my home in Arizona. That means it's 6 p.m. on the West Coast and it's 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And thank you for joining us here in this edition of the Sedona Connection. And it is nice to be back after being gone for an extended period of time in Hong Kong. So, what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to just kind of describe about what went on when I was in Hong Kong. What is the purpose of the Dragon family? Who are they? How are they involved in all this stuff with the currency exchange with this? And I'll get into all the history behind all of that. So, but as I said, it's nice to be back with a live program. Now, I was for 3.5 months I was in Hong Kong on this latest trip, but I've been going back and forth to Hong Kong now for almost 16 months, spending time with the gentleman that is called the ambassador. Now, I'm not at liberty to give his full, complete name, but that's what a lot of people know him as, is the ambassador. And he basically is my connection, my direct connection with the elders of the Dragon family. He's one of the few people that have direct contact with the elders of the Dragon family. Now, first of all, let me describe who is this Dragon family based out of Hong Kong. They are a family that traces their genealogical roots back over 4,000 years. Some of them can actually trace their genealogy generation by generation back almost 4,000 years. They are a long-time historical family, and going back that far, they were one of the first groups or organizations to start collecting gold over 4,000 years ago. And they had continued to collect this gold until it was it's not in this situation anymore, but not too long ago they had more gold than anybody in the world, and yet hardly anybody knew about the Dragon family. They kept themselves quiet, they operated in the background, and they let other groups or organizations kind of take the front on who controlled the gold, where the gold came from, and all that kind of stuff. But the Dragon families basically have been the dominant group or organization that has had direct impact on the world's money supply. Now, they have known this, and the majority of the people in the Dragon family, the organizers, are good people. They're beneficial. They're benefactors to us as humanity. They understood and knew that this gold did not belong to them. It belonged to humanity, but they were just guardians and caretakers of it for it to be released at the right, appropriate time. And we are now entering into the season of that right appropriate time where these resources of this gold is going to be released to humanity. Now, as I said, they've been caretaking and taking care of this gold for all this time. Now, they've been releasing some of this gold to other benefactors, so they don't have more gold than anybody in the world anymore, but they are still the dominant people that run and control the world's money supply. How is that? You see, we've always been told basically it's been the Federal Reserve that has run and controlled the world's money supply. Yes, that is true. On a practical basis, the Federal Reserve here in the United States is the dominant factor of the world's money supply. But a lot of people don't realize that the Federal Reserve got their money originally from the Dragon family. So you see, the Federal Reserve, those that run and control the Federal Reserve, are indebted to the Dragon family. Now, let me explain a little bit more about the Federal Reserve. A lot of people don't realize the Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It is a private business, a private corporation, just as any other private corporation. And yet they run and control the world's money supply. The Federal Reserve is dominated by four families: the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, I'm going blank on the other one, and then the Warburgs out of Germany. I'm going blank on the fourth ones. They're a well-known banking family. Those four families run and control the Federal Reserve. They originally were under contract with the Dragon family, but they had so much money and became so powerful they went rogue and went on their own. And the Dragon family didn't step in to run and control them because they knew that they couldn't do that practically. Because why was they couldn't do that? Because you see, when the Dragon family was supplying the world's money supply, if they tried to step in and stop the control of it, they ended up. I'm getting some blank thoughts here in just a minute. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so the Dragon family had an indirect control over the Federal Reserve, but they couldn't control them dominantly, because if they did, I should say, my thoughts are getting mixed up here a little bit. I'll bypass that thought. Okay, for now. Okay, so the Dragon family has had this control over the world's money supply on a directly and an indirect basis, and I'm losing my thought pattern here. Is what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just going to step aside from that. So I've been introduced to the Dragon family, and the reason I was introduced to them is because it's time that they are wanting to take back control of the world's money supply from the Federal Reserve. Now, they're not going to do away with the Federal Reserve, but they're going to basically neuter their power and their control. And to do that is to basically release all these funds to all these different people, all these scores of thousands of people, and turn them into multimillionaires. It's a way that they can basically take back control of the world's money supply from the dominance of the Federal Reserve System. Because the Federal Reserve System is set up to turn us into their slaves, in so many words. They control the world's money supply. They basically have this dominance control over these four families who control most of the corporations around the world. And then what they do is they have that, the Federal Reserve System has the control over the world's money supply, and they keep the rest of us as slaves working for their corporations to make them become more powerful billionaires and more powerful people. And it's time for the shift and change for that to take place. It's time for that change to take place. And this is the part of the system that they're setting up to do that. They're allowing this currency exchange of where there's going to be scores of thousands of people who are going to be turned into millionaires overnight and told to go spend their money. And by doing that, it takes away the domination and control of the Federal Reserve System, where we are not dependent upon them for our resources of our money. Now, this is a long-term system that they have set up to operate and do this on this basis, okay? So, now, with that, they have asked me to come in and be a part of this process of overseeing their operations of this, what we call the Texas Processing Office that is basically going to be supplying us all the funds through this currency exchange. The Texas Processing Office it was set up by the Dragon family, but once they set it up, they backed off and they didn't do the day-to-day administration and management of the Texas Processing Office. They gave this to the group of people who are there, and they allow them to run and control it, but they still oversee it. Now, I was always told that there were two groups that were overseeing the Texas Processing Office. One was white hats within the U.S. Treasury, and others white hats within the CIA. And they were the ones that were overseeing this. Well, when I was there in Hong Kong, I became acquainted with the two gentlemen who run this process. One represents the CIA and the other represents the U.S. Treasury. These are the two gentlemen who have the authority of when it's time to release the funds to us. Now, there's various things that they have to do that, and they also have to have the final say from the elders of the Dragon family before they can do that. These are two gentlemen that work directly for the Dragon family. They are U.S. citizens. They're here in the United States, but they work directly for the Dragon family when it's time to release these funds. And I've had the opportunity to become acquainted with them. I have talked with them about this process, and they have said the timing is very, very close. There are some variables that are involved that depend upon when the funds were going to be released, but according to me, it could be any time between the next couple of weeks to the next couple of months. Now, that is subject to change, but as of now, that is the timing of when these funds are going to finally be released that we have been waiting for. And now, so that was my involvement with the Dragon family. And how did I get involved with the Dragon family? Well, I found out that I'm a member of the Dragon family. See, the dragon family is not just Chinese. They are made up of royal bloodline families that come out of Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and China. And I'm out of the European clans of the dragon family. And they had contacted me in a roundabout way. They brought me in, they tested me to make sure everything was going to be okay. And I have become, basically their representative here in the United States. I was told that I am now the Dragon family's sole representative for all the affairs that take place within the United States because I am a member of the family. And that was a whole another situation to get involved in all that and understanding all that. So now I spent a lot of time there in Hong Kong. And the reason for that is because we kept waiting for things to develop and to take place. Now, there are other factors that are going on, and there was a lot of delaying factors that were taking place. But what I had mentioned was there were some personal funds and some indirect funds that were coming out of India that had to take place first before the funds for the Texas processing office could be replaced. And when I left 3 days ago to come back home, the word was those funds out of India are starting to be released to Mikhail, my friend, the ambassador, today. Today, those funds are starting to be released. Now, it takes a couple of days for all those funds to be released, and then it takes another 3 or 4 days for those funds to make their way down to where I will have my personal funds that are there. This process was set up to be the testing ground for the larger release of our currency exchange funds. Now, so I'm telling it to you as I understand it at this time, but please understand that is still subject to change. But if everything goes as they are planning, we can start seeing possibly the funds for the currency exchange being released to us in a couple of months. It takes a couple of months' time to get to that. So that's the latest update of what I have, and I don't have a whole lot more comments that I need to talk about on that. I want to keep this somewhat short. I need to stay, there's a reason why I don't want to go too extensively in this, is because I'm somewhat limited in what I can share for security reasons. You see, the ambassador back in right after Christmas had an assassination attempt on his life. And he actually said he had a near-death experience. It was that close to him being totally, dead and assassinated. He had gone into what was called a coma and a stroke state, and he was in a stroke state for almost 6 weeks. And finally, it was the second week in February, he was able to be more coherent. He was able to communicate coherently. And it took him a couple more weeks before he could start walking around, and he was walking around with a cane for about 3 weeks. And then finally, it was around late March to early April, he had fully recovered from this assassination attempt on his life. And he's doing fine. He's doing great. Everything is back to normal. But that had to get back to a normal operation as well. Because, see, the funds were that close right around Christmas time to being released. And the assassination attempt was an attempt by an off group to stop those funds from being released. But the Dragon family was able to intervene, to protect him, to keep him safe, and he's back up fully operational, and things are back to full operational issues now. What we had done was things kept getting delayed because of these attempts to stop the process that is there. So I know something, my thoughts aren't flowing really clearly tonight. I'm just sharing a lot of things with you on that. But all I can say is that, the fourth group, yes, Clifford Wagner, it was Chase Morgan. The Morgan banking system was the fourth group of those that control the Federal Reserve. Thank you, Clifford, for mentioning that. So, folks, that's pretty much all I have to share tonight, is that we're very close to the funds being released if things don't get interrupted, if things don't get disrupted in the process. And I am back home. I don't have any plans on going back to Hong Kong. My work in Hong Kong is pretty much done. But it was a necessity for me to be there and to go through all the process that was there. And other than that, I think, it's been a short program here tonight. I'm not going to take any questions, or let me see here. What I might do, if you've got some questions on Facebook, I'll take a look there. Is there, as Susan says, is there expectation for money not to be spent at corporations, instead be spent between small businesses, etc.? No. The funds are yours directly for you to do with whatever you want. Okay, so then it says, so when they begin their release, it will be distributed by groups who were at the workshops most recently. Yes, I've always said I will start. The money gets released to individuals, but I will start with those who attended the most recent workshops, because I have to have a starting point. Because, folks, I have almost 4,000 people that I need to pay out funds to, and it's going to take a couple of months to get everybody paid. So it's important that you know once the funds start that it's going to take a while to get to everybody. Okay, is there still going to be a credit union? Yes, there is. There's still going to be a credit union. Will there be more paperwork to be filled out? Yes, there will be more paperwork, because once we know the funds are going to start being paid out, everybody will have to do new paperwork as well, because we have to have documentation and paperwork and contracts signed for all this to be in a legal process. Am I going to keep doing the workshops after we're paid? Yes, I will. In fact, I don't have an exact date yet, but I'm going to start going back to doing the workshops again. And yes, the workshops will continue after we get paid. Will there be several payments or a lump sum 100K to start with still? I don't know yet. I don't have all those details, but I'm assuming nobody's going to get paid all at once, because it's way too much money to release into the global money supply without disrupting the process. Will those who purchased additional dong be paid first? I don't know. I don't have a comment on that yet. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, so okay. How will I inform you when the time comes? You're going to be informed by the internet, folks, the same way that I always do. I'll send you an internet announcement that it's time to start releasing the funds, and we'll set up the process there. What's the content of the workshops? Deb, I don't have time. That's way too extensive to go into right now. Will the bonds go at the same time? The bonds will be paid first. The bonds will be paid first before the dong gets paid, okay? The bonds and the ZIMs will be paid first before that. Is it possible to start the background checks before the release of funds? I don't have a good answer on that right now at this time, okay? How long will it take to get the credit union set up? I don't know. I don't have an answer on that at this time. But regardless, folks, once I know the money is coming, it's going to take a couple months before you're going to be receiving anything. So there's time to get all that done, okay? All right. So has the value changed? The value, I have been telling you that the value is going to be around $1.35. It is subject to change. That is not etched in stone. There's a possibility it might be going down to around $1.30 per dong, okay? So, but the value changes based on how many people are coming in to be a part of the whole process. What's the update from the Texas processing office? Are they the primary in this process? Yes, they are. Nothing changed on that. Does Reno and the Texas Center coincide? I have absolutely no idea. Reno, I have no idea about what goes on in Reno. Is your credit union okay? No, we're going to set up our own credit union. I don't get to have you set up an account at your own credit union. We will set up our own credit union, and that is how those funds will be dispersed. Yes, the bonds and the ZIM will be paid before the dong gets paid. Okay, as of now. Remember, a lot of this stuff is still subject to change, but as of now, that's the way that it is. Okay, so there's a lot of questions that are coming in. If I don't see any, okay, what will be the rate for the ZIM? We don't have a ZIM rate. We do not have a ZIM rate. My understanding, it's going to be at least $100,000 for each one of those 1 trillion ZIM notes, but it's possibly going to be a lot more, but that's what I know. We have never been given an exact ZIM rate as we have with the dong. Okay. Should you set up an LLC, and how do we prepare for taxes? I would definitely set up an LLC. You do not want to get paid as an individual, because your taxes, they will tax you out of the cahoots as an individual versus an LLC or a business. So it's very probable you should definitely set yourself up as an LLC. Debit card and checks in the credit union, I don't know. I don't have that answer at this time. Do you think we'll be paying taxes? I don't have an answer on the taxes. I don't have an answer on that. Okay? But what I say is, plan on the fact that we will probably have to pay capital gains taxes. Be prepared for that. Then if we don't, then it's just a greater benefit. I had mentioned previously there had to be a new die-off or a new financial system in order that. No, I don't understand about that. The Dong and the Zim paperwork, Carrie, an LLC. You need to form your own LLC. The Dong and the paperwork, you've already done that with me if you've already filled it out, the initial stuff. Is it true the removal of the 3 zeros? I have absolutely no idea. That's a dinar question that I have no idea about. Does the Iran war have anything to do with the release? Iraq has absolutely nothing to do with, nor Vietnamese Dong. None of the countries involved in all this external stuff have anything to do with the release of the funds. Do I sell Zim too? No, I'm not selling any more Zim. I used to, but I don't. Would a trust be better than an LLC or vice versa? Enid, I can't answer that question for you. You need to get your own tax advisor on that. So if a trust would be better than an LLC. The issue is you don't want to be taxed as an individual. Now, a trust is a possibility, but I can't answer that directly. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think I'm probably ready to call it an evening here tonight. And yeah, and thank you, Janine, for saying this. See, I can't give you legal advice. Because legal advice can be different for each individual. So any legal advice, you need to be able to get that on your own. Okay? All right. Okay. So I think we're ready to go here. I want to thank you all for joining me here tonight. And as of now, I plan on being back next week. Okay? So we'll see you later. Okay. Bye-bye.